Okay, so welcome everyone to today's session, Developing Critical Thinkers in Today's Classroom. This is our first session in our series of events this week for Critic Impacted Week. This is the second time we're running this event. We did run one last year in December, and we're hoping to run another one again later this year in November, December as well. So stay tuned for more information on that. But thank you very much for being part of this today. This is one of the few opportunities we get to have everyone who has ever been interested in any of Critic's products come together, whether it's existing users who have been using Critic for a long, long time, or if it's brand new people who have never even really heard of what our offerings are. We're going to talk a little bit about that later today, but really we want to keep focus today on the idea of critical thinking and instilling that in people. So my name is Kelly. I'm the Director of Customer Success here at Critic, which is exactly what it sounds like. I always say it's really my job to make sure that professors and students are set up for success when they are using Critic. So I oversee our team of people who do all of our onboarding, all of our account management, and then all of our support as well. So we have quite a bit of offering in the way of support. We have a 24/7 live chat and that kind of thing. So oversee all of that. My background is in education. So I'm a former elementary school teacher myself. Left that about 15 years ago to get into the more corporate world, I would say. And I've been at Critic for almost 4 years now, really kind of blending my passion for technology with my passion for education. So I'm just trying to let in a couple more people here. There we go. And I'll pass it over to Francine and Brian to introduce themselves. So we'll start with you, Francine.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Francine Geis, and I am from Oakland University, which is suburban Detroit, Michigan. My discipline is law primarily, although I teach business, and I also teach a lot of ethical behavior, which requires a lot of critical thinking. And I suspect that's why I'm here. And I have been at OU for 14 years. And prior to that, I was at Purdue University, right?
Wonderful.
Thanks. Yeah, Brian Hoyt. I'm a professor of management at Ohio University. I teach in the College of Business. I've been at OU for 30 years. It's my 30th year. I teach primarily management, upper level management, junior seniors, in management, org behavior, human resource management, and some operations courses. And I've been as far as critics, a long time Critic user and a new user piloting the Visible AI component of Critic. And have been,
I think we might have some participants that are not muted. Let me mute if anyone's
okay,
not.
someone wants a bagel. Is that what's going on? I can't help you. So that's enough. Thanks, Kelly. Yep.
Brian, I just wanted to point out, Kelly, real quick, we're both OU, but arguably he's the Ohio University, right? I just thought of that.
Perfect. Okay, I just kind of quickly ran through and I think I got most people muted. So I think we're all right. All righty, here we go. So in terms of our agenda for today, we're going to try our best to keep it to the hour mark, but we're going to just kind of get us started with a little intro. So if everyone wants to open up their chat in Zoom, we're going to start with that in just a moment. We're going to then get into the urgency of critical thinking today. Why is it important that we're thinking about critical thinking? We'll talk a little bit about pedagogies that promote critical thinking, and then we'll get into Francine and Brian's experiences with our products, Critic 360 and Visible AI, and their examples and how they've been using it. And then we will close off with a great discussion and Q&A at the end. So don't miss that. It's usually the most engaging part of the whole thing. We have had some great discussions before. So we'll just get started with everyone who's here. If you could open your chat in Zoom, just share where you're coming from, what school are you from, what program are you from, and if you feel like it, add a little sentence or two about what the biggest challenge you're facing in terms of ensuring that your students are thinking critically in your courses. So probably a lot to encompass in one little phrase, but do your best. We'd love to just kind of get to know everyone that's on the call today and just kind of see where everyone's coming in from. I know we have quite a big range of people today, so this is great. Welcome again, everyone, and thank you for being here and taking time out of your day. Thank you, Kimberly, for kicking off the chat. That's great. Kimberly and Kim. It's all about the Kims. Wonderful. Thanks, everyone. Mostly genetics. Great. Yes, they do want to do the computer to do the thinking for them. That's what we're going to try to get past and what we're going to talk about today for sure. Elizabeth, good to see you. It's been a while. Awesome. Just quickly reading some of these. Amazing. Thanks everyone for sharing. Motivating students. Yeah, that's a big one. Not just relying on external tools for sure. And yes, I know one of the biggest things for you all as instructors is being able to actually know if the work your students are producing is in fact authentic. So I think that'll be a big piece about what we are going to speak about today as well. So continue sharing as we go along. It's still great for everyone to kind of see each other and where we are all coming from. But I'll also just kind of get started with this little quote here, this little statistic that says 87% of employers say that they prioritize critical thinking and problem solving over a candidate's undergraduate major. And that is something that we do see time and time again. Another stat that I love to quote is from the National Association of Colleges in the US, where they say like 95% of employers are wanting students to have critical thinking skills, but they feel that less than 60% of their employees are actually proficient in being able to think critically. So this is certainly a hot topic amongst post-secondary institutions and just really wanting to instill this in young people today. And that's a big reason why I work here is because both of our products aim to do that. And as a former educator, it's something I believe very strongly in myself. Okay, so the urgency of critical thinking today, I mean, that quote kind of encapsulated it. It gives us a great jumping off point. But of course, as we all know, it's been a rapid rise of AI over the last couple of years. Hard to believe we're about to be on GPT-5 for ChatGPT. It's just evolving at an unprecedented pace. And with that has come, you know, lots of misinformation. There's a lot of polarization on this topic. You know, Francine and Brian and I were talking just before we started here today about the huge range of the spectrum of different beliefs and policies going on at institutions across North America. Everything from, you know, they don't want to use it at all, and it's all about just detection, if anything at all, and that's it, to, oh, we have to embrace it. It's going to be in every single course we offer. We're going to start incorporating AI. So we've seen everything here at Critic, everything in between both of those ends. You know, it really is probably the hottest topic in education for all facets of education right now. And as you see there, of course, many of you probably know this, 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet. So I'm sure that there will be some things replaced by AI. There will be new things that arise, new jobs and fields and opportunities as a result of that as well, but just everything just kind of changing rapidly. And then finally, really thinking about critical thinking as a survival skill in today's world. So, you know, encouraging students and all of us to be able to ask good questions about the information that's around us, and, you know, being able to decipher what is the right information or what is factual and true and that kind of thing, right? So, Brian, I know you unmuted yourself there. I just wasn't sure if you had any thoughts maybe you wanted to share on this, and then we'll move on to the next slide.
Yeah, just to add to that, the Society for Human Resource Management just put out their annual report. It's once a year, and they were focusing on skill gaps. This particular report, and they reported 83% of organizations had problems securing desired candidates. Not a surprise. 75% of those were having problems securing candidates also reported candidates missing key skills. One of the top skills was critical thinking. Another was dealing with complexity and ambiguity. Sorry. And it was also interesting, that survey, they said the biggest help area for higher education, meaning for then organizations that are their members, was critical thinking. So we're really talking about the what organizations need from our students, and that happens to be a business association, but all employees.
Absolutely. It's eye-opening, really. And I think it just goes to show of the 3 sessions that we're offering, they've all been very popular, but this one, I think, really caught people's attention. It was definitely the highest number of registrants for this session today about critical thinking. So what do we mean by critical thinking? Kind of alluded to that before. Of course, the definition of it is to analyze, evaluate, and construct ideas with logic and clarity. But the real big components of that is being able to ask those good questions, being able to reason effectively, being able to reflect on things, which you're going to see is a big part of both of the products that we're offering here at Critic, and decision making as well. So being able to make effective decisions. I tell my kids all the time, life is all about the choices you make, right? And we want to be encouraging our youth to make those good choices. And in order to do that, they need to be informed and critical thinkers. So and then that other element there as well, Bloom's taxonomy, Critic's overarching logo is that triangle that you see as those bullet point replacements. And that is based on Bloom's taxonomy. Our co-founders were kind of reading some literature related to that. One of our co-founders is doing her PhD in education, and she was just kind of thinking, how can we encourage students to really activate those higher order thinking skills, that they can think critically, they can create authentic work and get right to the top of that pyramid, right? And so that's really what we're trying to do here here at Critic. All right. So with all of that said, we do have a large gap often between what we know to be the right thing to do maybe in practice and what is actually happening in the classroom. And so that is creating a bit of a gap. Much of traditional instruction is still focused on recall, right? Especially in large class sizes where it becomes very difficult to do assignments that don't rely on auto grading or multiple choice assessments, which are fine. They definitely have their place for sure. But we know that that's not always the most effective way to assess student learning. And so that is also creating a gap in between what we're doing and what we know is really more the right thing to do. Students also very rarely get feedback on their thinking, on the thought process that went into their work. They're often judged mainly on the final work that is put out, but we don't get a lot of visibility into how they're actually creating the work that they are submitting to you as instructors. And so we really need to be thinking about that shift from the right answers to the right processes. How are we actually arriving at the answers that we're getting to, that we're submitting in our papers or in our final exams and things like that, and making sure that those connections in our brain are actually taking place so that we are solidifying that learning properly. Anything to add there, Francine or Brian?
Yeah, I probably, oh, sorry, Brian. No, oh, okay. I would add that, yes, traditional instruction, I wouldn't say it fails, but prior to academic life, I was, in the business world. And I think that is what all of the brouhaha is about, that many of our students, along with lacking in skills for critical thinking, really can't make good decisions when faced with, something, whatever the something is. And one of the reasons why I like Critic is because they do get some feedback. Maybe you shoulda, or you coulda, or whatever. So to me, that is critical because we've all flopped on our face. The key is going to be learning from flop and also getting back and saying to yourself, unless whatever it is there next time, this is not going to be applicable. So, and we move on from there, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, learning from the flop. I'm going to coin that. That'll be our new tagline. I love it. Brian, anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to add that these 3 classroom gap points are I think exaggerated in online courses, asynchronous in particular. I've used Critic in courses and used it and it's a flipped component, but I actually used it most in asynchronous courses, large numbers of students, and how difficult it is to get to focus on their thinking, to get them focusing on processes rather than answers when classes are big or they're online. And Critic has really facilitated that better than anything, quite honestly, that I could do in the classroom within just that, hour, 50 minutes that we're together.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you both for sharing. Oh, I think we have some. We've got, I'm just gonna quickly go to my participants list. Let's see. I think we're good. Okay. All right. Okay, so what are some pedagogies that promote this critical thinking? As Francine and Brian both have been talking about critic. We're going to be talking about those products in just a moment. But what works really in terms of what is research telling us works for helping students learn on that deeper level, being able to process their thinking in the right ways, and being able to arrive at those correct answers after asking all of the best questions possible. I mean, this is probably no surprise to any of you on this call today, but of course, inquiry-based learning is a big one. Peer evaluation and dialogue. So getting that communication and collaborative spirit amongst your students is very important. And of course, that's what Critic is trying to do. Metacognitive reflection as well, and open-ended problem solving. So things where there's not just going to be a yes or no or a right or wrong, but really tapping into a bit more of the subjective side of learning, right? Where they have to think critically and evaluate the work that's in front of them as students and discern whether or not it was done well or not. And that is something that peer assessment can play a huge role in. In terms of the role of feedback in developing thinkers, and feedback being a huge part of what we are doing with both of the products we offer, feedback is not just about improvement, it's also about a thinking process, right? You want to, when you're giving feedback to someone, it's not just to tell them where they did well or where they could improve, but you also need to engage with the work that you're reviewing or what you're looking at in order to be able to evaluate it accurately and actually provide a good and strong evaluation to the person whose work you're evaluating. And students learn to evaluate when they're learning to evaluate others. This is kind of the byproduct that we see all the time, that I hear from the hundreds of professors that I work with, is that they become better evaluators of their own work. They start to really understand how they fit into the grand scheme of things in your class. So when you're doing peer assessment, they are getting exposed to other students who are doing very well, other students who are maybe doing a little bit more poorly and who need to pull their socks up. And they're kind of starting to figure out where they fit into things, right? One of the other professors that I work with, who's going to be joining us as a guest speaker in tomorrow's session, he has mentioned to me many times that, his students, they all think that they're delivering A+ work, right? They all are putting their best foot forward in a lot of cases. And so when they see suddenly how that compares to other people, that really shows them, oh, maybe I'm not as fantastic as I thought I was. I need to kind of pull up my socks a little. Where could I improve my writing or my submissions to be, even better than they are right now? Or the opposite. What happens with some of the times with minority students, especially with women, is that we have this imposter syndrome, right? We don't think we're doing as well as we are a lot of the times. And when you involve something like peer assessment, you actually can help students see that they are maybe doing better than they thought, or that other people are making the same mistakes that they are. So it just kind of levels the playing field and gives everyone a bit more insight into how everyone in the class is doing. And there's this feedback loop, this idea of a feedback loop, which is what our third session of Impact Ed Week is focused on, which is a create, evaluate, and reflect model. So we like to call that giving 360-degree feedback. It's not just a one-way street. It's going to come back around, and students are going to give feedback back to the people who are evaluating them as well. So not just a one-way street there. Anything, Francine, anything you want to add to this one?
Yeah, there's one thing, certainly in agreement with everything that you specified here. There's also another with deference and respect to Brian and the HR bailiwick. You have to, in my discipline, business, if you become a manager, and I tell the kids this, you will have to give feedback. This is a very crucial way for you to learn, where it's a low stake, kind of not low stakes because it is their education. But my point is, You have to learn to give feedback to others. I'm sure almost everybody here has had the experience of having kids work in a group and one person does the work. And then when you ask them, well, how did, I don't know. Well, did you say anything? Well, I don't know. Okay, so I think it serves a larger instructive purpose for students, particularly in business and maybe in other disciplines as well. So I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, one of the things I've also heard is when instructors are doing peer assessment, of course, particularly with Critic 360, our product is what I hear. But they find that their students develop the ability to give such great evaluation commentaries through doing these assignments over the course of the semester that by the end of the semester, when they do their instructor evaluations or the evaluations for the course as a whole, they're providing much more detailed feedback to their instructors and to the school administration than they ever did before. So I think that's another kind of nice, byproduct is that we're teaching them how to write effectively and communicate effectively in terms of giving feedback to others. And you see that reflected in that as well. Okay, so getting from this theory into practice, we're going to just talk very quickly about the two products that we are offering here through Critic, and that is because we have a huge range of people attending today, from people who have never seen any of the products before to people who are longtime users. So just quickly wanted to give a high-level overview here. So Visible AI is our authorship tracking tool. This is a tool that is aiming to improve students' AI literacy. And it's offering transparency. We like to say transparency, not detection, into student work. So this is something we launched in January. We had about 8 institutions piloting it in the winter, spring semester. And now we have a ton of interest and professors who are adopting it in the fall. So it's a fairly early stage tool, and it is fantastic. We're seeing a lot of great traction there. But it's really meant to give instructors visibility into the students' thought process and the writing process behind the work that they are submitting. You would see in Visible AI, you'll get an authenticity score. You're going to be able to see exactly how much copy pasted content there is, exactly how much AI related content there is. They're going to have to cite their sources for anything that they're pasting in from externally. There's a whole reference page. And then it really allows you to set the guardrails for how you want to use AI in your classroom. But the idea is to reinforce writing as an iterative and thoughtful process and to support autonomy in your students without having too much reliance on AI. So like I mentioned, just having those kind of guardrails in place. So what I wanted to do today is I don't want to leave the slide deck. We're not going to be doing like a big product demonstration or anything. If you're interested in seeing more, we have wonderful account executives who can walk you through this product, both of our products more in depth. So if you're interested in that, there will be information to connect with us. But I just wanted to give more of this kind of high level overview. So again, you have this customizable AI policy that'll be set by the instructor with a built-in AI assistant for students. So customizable in terms of you can actually set how much in terms of a percentage of AI generated work you are willing to accept as part of your students' work. So let's say you wanted to make that 20% or 25% or whatever it might be, you have the ability to do that. We also offer 3 different types of AI assistants. So we have a default one, which is kind of your generic. If you went to ChatGPT, that's the kind of interaction you would have. We have a really cool one called guiding, where if the student tries to ask it to do too much on its behalf, it'll actually push back on the student and encourage them to think critically before it will kind of guide them more in the direction of the assignment. So that's really neat. And then we have one that's more research based, which I think is the one Francine uses, if I'm not mistaken, and that is going to give more research related responses to students that are going to be rooted in research. But all sources are tracked. You can actually see a whole replay of the writing process. So students can see exactly what you are going to see as instructors before they even submit. They can see all of that and then they submit and then you can see all of that. So it's all completely there and visible and transparent to both sides. There is a student reflection at the end where we encourage the students to reflect on what they actually learned out of this assignment. So in terms of the AI use, did they get more confident using AI? Did they struggle in any areas? Did they feel like they used good prompts, or could they have done better? That kind of thing. And there is a custom field as well where you can add additional questions if you want to have them be reflecting on certain things specifically. And then at the end, you'll get a report that'll give you the percent breakdown of AI generated content, AI revised content, pasted content, original content, and then an overall authenticity score that's based on that. So that is Visible AI in a nutshell. And then our other product offering is called Critic 360. This is actually a brand new name, so excuse all three of us if we still refer to it as Critic. But last Thursday, we actually completely rebranded with Critic now as our umbrella parent company, and we've got Critic 360 as our peer assessment offering, and Visible AI as our authorship tracking tool for AI literacy. But Critic 360 is focused on peer evaluation. This was our first product. It's been around for about 6 years now. We've got lots of adoption across North America. But this is a platform that's really promoting active learning and deep reflection, as well as student accountability, because they do have to go through 3 stages that are going to kind of force them to think critically throughout each step of the process. The idea here is that we're emphasizing feedback quality, not just the scores that students are receiving. So you'll see they get a grade for every stage that they submit. They even get graded for how well they evaluate their peers. And really, it's offering diverse or exposure to diverse perspectives, right? So kind of like what I was saying before, now they're getting to see how other students are thinking in their class, not just how they're thinking, how you might approach a problem in a different way. I know Brian and Francine are kind of more like business focused, but I've even heard chemistry professors tell me students are telling them they just love seeing how molecules can be drawn in different ways. So there's lots of great things that you can get out of something like peer assessment, no matter what discipline you're in. And from our student survey this past academic year, we had about over 2,000 respondents, as you see there. 84% of them said that their critical thinking skills improved as a result of using Critic 360. So that's always nice to see when students can self-identify that they feel like they've gotten value out of a tool. And we see that very overwhelmingly here. So just a few basics of Critic 360. It does have 3 stages: create, evaluate, and feedback. So the create stage is where they're actually creating the work that they would typically submit to you, but they're submitting now on Critic 360 for their peers to evaluate. They get into that evaluate stage, and they are anonymously assigned several of their peers to evaluate. You have control over how many. Usually it's around 3 or so. They will evaluate their peers using the rubric you've provided, and they'll leave a little written commentary as well. And then we have the feedback stage in Critic, which is what brings everything 360. And that is where they give feedback back to the people who evaluated them. They get to let their evaluators know how effective those evaluations were. Was it actually motivational? Was it written in a tone that was kind and that I could be receptive to? And was it very specific? Did it tell me where I did well and where I could improve next time, and that kind of thing? So we really want students to grow, not just as creators of work, but as evaluators of work as well over the course of the semester. It is all anonymized unless you're doing something like a live presentation or a team member assessment, where of course then they need to know who they're assessing. Otherwise, it is fully anonymous in Critic 360. And we have something called grading power as well. What that means is that the system starts to learn if students are good at evaluating their peers. And over the course of the semester, it will place more weight on students who grade better than others. So if you have, let's say, 2 different students, just for simplicity's sake, grading one other student's piece of work, and one is a very strong evaluator and one is still learning and is not maybe as strong as the other, that one that's really strong might count up to 6 times more in the grade they give their peer than that other student. And the reason for that is because we want you and the students to be able to trust the grades that they get in Critic, right? Especially in, again, very large classes. You don't have time to go back and look at all the grades your students have given each other. You want to be able to trust those scores, and this is how we ensure that the scores are as accurate as possible. And we offer a wide range of activity types. They can all be done individually or in groups. So the sky is really the limit in terms of what types of activities and assessments you can run in Critic 360. But what everyone has really been waiting for is for me to stop talking and our wonderful guests to start talking more and share about how they have incorporated both of these products into their courses. So they've both been early adopters of Visible AI and longtime users of Critic 360, previously Critic. So we'll start with Francine. I'll pass it over to you. Just let me know when you want me to go to the next slide, but we'll start with a high-level overview of your course here.
Sure. So I have been using Critic 360, let me make sure I get the name right, for the last 4 years, and recently adopted the Visible AI. For me, mostly in my class, I have 3 assignments per semester. One of the other things, and I meant to say this earlier, that I really like about Critic 360 is the fact that the create stage is finite, all right, for me. Now, I guess I've seen where you could, have it a little bit more flexible. Mine is never flexible. There's a date and time in which you must have it done. Back to what Brian said about the large online classes. I believe academic rigor really compels me to make sure the dates are in fact, they have to be firm, unless somebody is in an accident or something like that. But for the most part, that's how my classes are. And my particular assignments are very real life in a sense. They've kind of happened or potentially could happen in a legal business world. And the maximum tolerance of mine actually is like 35%. And I've had others ask me, well, why 35%? There's no magic to this for me. I figure if what you're writing, if greater than 35% of it isn't yours, then I'm good with saying it isn't yours. You need to, I think you have to do it that. Now, whatever anybody else, is tolerable, is fine. Next slide, Cal. Let's go on. These are the objectives for this one particular intellectual property, which is my own personal discipline. This is my area of expertise in the law. So, I have a lot of familiarity with it. I want the students to apply the principles of law, intellectual property law, to a business scenario. I believe it does help them to develop the critical thinking by analyzing, and also, as I said earlier, the ethical implications are so important for anything legal. And so there's a lot of that in there that they have to do. And they also have to do some legal research and their writing skills. And then I want to know also, because sometimes what is legal is not always, I shouldn't say this, what is business? Oh God, I'm just thinking the way I'm saying it. I'm not even sure how to say that. Because sometimes people do things in business that are not legal. So what I'm trying to say is that we want the students to understand the interplay between business and legal strategy or legal outcomes. So, and that's something for them to think about. So, all right. So these are the instructions. And in this scenario, there is this new company, which for those of you that are watching the market like I do, I spend a lot of time, I'm a market watcher, and I spend time with my finance colleagues. So I'm very into the new and up and coming companies. So this particular company has filed a patent, and there's a number of legal issues related to IP, such as the copyright issue, a patent issue, and a trademark issue, which are your 3 forms of intellectual property, which teaches them that, and I want to hear them or see them write on this. They have to use, in my class now, you have to use Visible AI. I called Visible AI an editor, but Kelly says we are calling, what are we calling it?
And
An authorship tool, right?
editor is okay because that's fine. I mean, it is an editor, but you
I
can
like
call it an authorship tool. It's all
I
the
like
same.
authorship tool better, and they have to do it in this particular program so I can see everything that they have done. All right. All right. And this is just pretty much saying the same thing I've already said.
So in both Francine and Brian's case, when they were using this, we did not have a link between our two products. So the students would have to create and look at the assignments in Visible AI, create the assignment, and then go into Critic and submit it over there. Actually, for fall, we're going to have an integration between the two, so they'll be able to do everything right within the one platform, which is great, but so a little bit easier for the fall. But that's why we have two sets of instructions. But this is what Visible AI here looks like. So how do you use this view, Francine?
Well, in fact, what I did a couple of times, I had Vlad walk me through the stats on this so that I could try to, figure it out in my mind. I love the authenticity score because that tells me based upon, and this particular, it's no AI content there. That's normally going to be highly unlikely. Now, the question is how much, but it's normally going to be unlikely. It gives you the word count, how much of it was original content. Now, original is somewhat flexible because it's potential that the student could have gotten it from somewhere else and just utilized it. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose. There's probably no way to get around that. And then pasted content is what we know that they went to outside of this to find information and then pasted it in. I think it is verbatim, right, Kelly?
Yes, if they paste it in, it is
Yeah.
exactly what they paste in, and it will prompt them to cite their reference. Currently, it's
Right.
APA style, but we are adding other styles as well for the fall, I believe.
Right. So that's a good thing. So at least you know where it is, and you're welcome to verify it, for veracity, etc. And in this particular one, there is no AI revised content. So perhaps the student actually did have some AI content and they revised it and then utilized it. They didn't do any because they did not use any AI.
Yeah.
And right, am I
Yeah,
correct?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just going to add on to kind of what you were saying before in terms of like, could they do work outside of Visible AI and just type it up in here, right? The answer is yes, right? At the end of the day, we're not going to be like pointing fingers and that kind of thing, but we are aiming to give you insight into how the assignment is being created. So that's why the time spent might be important, right? If they only, get it done in 5-10 minutes and it's a lengthy assignment, that's probably a red flag, even if they have 100% authenticity. We do also offer AI detection. Like if that is something you're interested in, you can toggle that on in Visible AI and it'll give you another score for that. So that way it can still detect it even if it's coming from an outside source. But we have found that students are really liking using the integrated assistant right in there. And, they don't mind that it's kind of being tracked, I guess you could say, in terms of their authorship. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what Vlad and I talked about when I did my first assignment and I looked at my data, at my stats, and I had a couple of students who spent exactly 1 minute. And so we had a discussion, myself with the students. Well, how exactly did you do that? I'm just curious. Did you just know all of this at the top of your head? Well, yeah. So I kind of put out a message and said that I look at the amount of time that you spend on my assignments. I let them know because I think that's important because they cannot just come normally with this at the top of their head, which is why they're in the class. So, okay, I'm good. Okay, this is my rubric, and Critic 360 allows you to customize your rubrics however you want them to do. Now, for obvious reasons, mine are primarily devoted to legal stuff, and in this case, intellectual property, IP stuff. But I do always have the critical thinking there, and also the ethical consideration. I might add, this is intellectual property, but I have one of my other assignments is always a pure ethical assignment, which we're not dealing with today. But these are the things that I want them to know. I want to assess them on and see how they do. So, and you can customize it however you want. Basically.
Yes, and important to note, this is what the students are going to use to evaluate their peers' work. So when they're assigned their peers to evaluate, because you are using also Critic 360 in conjunction with Visible AI, this is what they are using to grade. Now, there is also a full rubric. As you see, there's a button that you can press and it expands the whole thing with all the level descriptions and everything. For today's purposes, just for simplicity's sake, I've just put the basic screenshot in here. But Francine is also doing a great job, because we do typically, as a best practice, recommend 4 to 6 criteria and 4 to 6 levels. And look at that, you're right in that sweet spot, Francine. So you probably realize that that's working pretty well for you.
Yep. So far, it very much is, and I like it. All right. Okay. This is a student giving his or her evaluation of another student. And I thought this was pretty good. This is, well, Kelly, you chose this one, but I actually remembered this one. I was particularly attracted to the fact that the student outlined the citations. Students don't normally do that, at least not that I have known. You can tell you put in time to really organize your thoughts and research to hit all of the points and make solid recommendations to the company regarding this particular scenario. Now also, the student said, he's also kind of doing the sandwich thing. You remember, Kelly, the sandwich, that's how we evaluate people. Creating a conclusion paragraph where you basically sum up your thoughts and recommendation in a succinct manner, and could have made your submission more complete. But overall, I enjoyed your submission. Now, the one, I guess, criticism I've noticed with students, I think they think that I care that they have enjoyed someone's submission. I would love it if one day, and I haven't had one yet, one student says, that really taught me something, or that enlightened or elucidated me. Haven't got it yet. And they all, I'm serious. They all say enjoy, and it was this, it was that. And I don't think he's thinking, or she is thinking that, in that, in that kind of, but for me, I would have liked to see that personally. So I'm good.
Yeah, I can tell you, we do see that sometimes in other ones as well. Something that you can use, which I think maybe is in, I can't remember if it's in Brian's or not, but something you can use is our evaluator notes, where you can actually give kind of instructions of things you want the students to keep in mind as they evaluate their peers. And some instructors will actually put a line in there that says that they would like the students to say something new that they learned from reading their peers' work or whatever it might be. So that could be a way to encourage that as well.
Okay.
I think one of the questions we get, or hesitancies I think we get from new professors who are thinking about doing peer assessment, is like, are my students actually capable of leaving good written commentaries for their peers? And like, they do a pretty good job, right? Like, this student has left a pretty lengthy commentary. They've outlined what the other student did well, where they could improve. They, delivered it in a pretty nice way. So, definitely on the right track with that kind of written evaluation. And then this is the feedback stage of Critic here.
Yeah, so to reiterate what Kelly already said, it's create stage. I give roughly, depending upon how long, the term of the class is, I give roughly 8 to 10 days to do the create stage. It's open, do it, day one if you like, or 11:50 of the night it's due, whatever. That's certainly the student's prerogative, although, as I said earlier, there is no grace. Well, actually, I think I have like an hour grace period to submit it, but not anything in terms of like days or whatever. And then the student would have to go on and look at how many feedback of other students they need to complete, because that's the other part to it. I usually do 3 to 5, Kelly. I think
Yep.
everyone has said that's good. Depends on how many students, obviously. And then after that, we move on into what's the next session? The next one.
To feedback.
Feedback, yes.
Yes. Yeah, so that's what's here. And so this is actually the feedback that was given to the student who wrote that other evaluation comment we saw. So you can see they said that student was very motivational and that they left a pretty good critique, right? Not great, but good. And they actually explained the reason for that here. So thank you. I do agree that a concluding paragraph could have been beneficial. But I'm a little confused about what you were referring to. An example would have been appreciated. So I think that just goes to show like this is creating that good dialogue between the students. And again, just helping them not to grow just as creators of work, but as evaluators of work as well. In the interest of time, I know we're getting close to the end of the session. We still got to go through Brian. So thank you so much for sharing all of that, Francine. And we'll move on to Brian's approach to using Visible AI and Critic 360.
Yeah, thanks, Francine. That was great. So I'm going to try to go through very similar sections or slides, but talk about what I think are some unique applications that can be done at each of these stages. So I use 3 to 4 large case scenarios for, again, these are seniors, typically seniors in a management class or a HR class, and they've designated HR as their concentration, so they are looking to be in that field. As you can read this, but I want to note something that, when I was doing these both in class and online, when I do a case analysis, a student might look at the content required and the actual content maybe 3 times. Once when they're looking at what's the assignment supposed to be like. So what am I supposed to be doing? 2, when they actually, complete their analysis. And then 3, this is the maybe when I give them feedback on the work that they did. So 3 times they might look at what is it that really is going on here. And then when using Critic, it's a minimum, if they use 5 peer evaluations, of 18 times. They have to look at the criteria, which is usually the rubric and the assignment descriptions, but the rubric focuses them in what it is they do, how it is they evaluate their peers, and then the back and forth that you saw with Francine's slide. So that's a significant amount of time that they spend thinking critically about the content that they're working on, which that alone has been a remarkable change. 2, I'd like to note that, and maybe go to the next slide. I think it'll go here. Yeah, is that once they get these instructions and then they put together their creation or they submit their response. In the evaluation stage, their evaluation score of their peers is based on my evaluation of those same peers. Very different from actually what most faculty do with Critic, is that every student gets a review by me relative to the assignment instructions. So, and we'll see that a little bit here. But the other part that's absolutely key is that their evaluation of their peers is measured based on my evaluation of that same peer. And so there've got to be some syncing there. And that in and of itself is helpful. But then I can come back and say, here's in just the evaluation, here's what you missed. So never mind their submission, here's what you missed in looking at someone else's work. It's a really a fantastic and relatively simple way to do it. So you can go ahead there. This is just a set of instructions for a case analysis for this HR class here. I give them, this is a case analysis here that they go through. And so here's a student's, and I want to look at this here for a little bit. Here's their submission using Visible AI. So what I have been doing is having them put it in, they're going to be combined, as Kelly said, but put it in Critic first, and I'll go through the evaluation of their analysis. And then I say, now let's see what Visible AI can do to enhance your understanding of here. Now, these are products. This is a onboarding or a training plan, or in this particular case, what's wrong with the attrition rates? Why is everyone leaving this company? And in this case, this assignment was for them to be a consultant and to report to this company and say, here's what I would do to remedy your attrition problem here. And so it also includes an interview. So they've got to write out, here's the proposal, and they're competing with the other students. And then they do a video, which also gets evaluated. So it's really comprehensive and connected here. But I want you to look at here, this, as we looked at Francine's here, this is a pretty good response here in terms of what I would say the analysis part of, or the analyzing part of critical thinking. They put together these parts and they're responding to, what is it that this company needs to do. And my comment to them was, well, in looking at your AI content, it was only 4%. Now, I assumed that they didn't just do it in AI and then put it in, right? So I give them the benefit of the doubt. But here's what my comment was that using AI here, we're teaching them to use AI correctly in the workplace. Using AI here could have enhanced the beyond the applying stage of critical thinking to analyzing, where you're looking at the parts, which they did a good job in saying, here are the parts of a program that would fix attrition, but did not, in fact, prompt and query with AI, what am I missing? Is there something else that would, have I hit all of the points? Have all of my recommendations hit? Using AI to enhance the response. And you can't do that with 4%.
Right.
It would be much more. So I would say, let's use it. Let's really use this. Let's get this thing helping you put together a product that would be HR program organization ready. So that was really key. And then here you'll also see, as I do, I look at the time there as well and go. Thanks. That's good.
Yeah, I was just going to add on, if I could, just quickly to say that I love that you're doing it kind of like backwards than what we sort of envisioned. I love that you're doing the peer assessment first, and then they make it even better by using the AI. That's really, really neat. I've not actually seen that yet.
And I think that's key, because what problem that most faculty have, as I did early on, was that they go to AI first.
Mhm.
And there's where you get into problems with hallucination and citations. They don't know what it is that's being reported. So they've got to do their original work first. Then we use AI to enhance it. Really, the benefit of AI is at that point, rather than, because if they don't know anything about an attrition, or they don't know anything about an onboarding plan, AI is not going to help them learn that. It's just going to give it to them in 5 minutes.
Right.
So, flipping that has made I think it made a difference, and their work has shown that.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, one quick question. I love the idea of that. Is this like over a whole semester that we work on this, or how do you do it?
Yeah.
I mean, time-wise.
It's through a whole semester. So it's an asynchronous online course. And so their work is done, in effect, outside of course, and then we work together in the Critic and the Visible AI platform. Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just mention for our attendees as well is that the prompts that the students use with the AI are also fully visible. So Brian and Francine would be able to see that. Also, if you are doing the Visible AI first and then the Critic, so if the students are exporting from Visible AI or submitting from Visible AI, the student evaluators also get to see the prompts that their peers have given. And so we're starting to see instructors incorporate that into their rubric as well. Like, did they use good prompts? Did they evolve their prompts over the course of writing the assignment and things like that? So again, really encouraging that critical reflection element.
And I give them prompting help as well. And, for each of the assignments, I'll say, here's some prompts to enhance. But again, it's after they've done original content. After they put in some work to understand it.
Yeah.
What I do here, this is again an excerpt of a thing, and I use a particular approach like a funnel. So based on this particular assignment, I'll put together my own thoughts, because I put the case together, my own thoughts about, what's what is it that we need to remember about this, attrition or training or onboarding, what are organizations doing now? So it's really general information. To be honest with you, 100% of the students get that first part of my response. And then as it goes down there, then I, based on what some of the responses are and also the assignment, I'll drill down a little bit and I'll say, what it is that's often missing when corporations look at attrition rates are other statistics or other ways in which to look at performance. So so then it's a little bit narrow, and it's more specific to what their thinking has been. And I do that. And by about the fourth student, I have that middle section, or the middle of that funnel. And then the bottom of that funnel, narrow, is very specific comments about their response. And so what it does is it's a cohesive approach to giving them, reminding them what's really what we're doing here, what are the key aspects of this content that everyone has to look at, and then how did you do relative to it? And it seems to work well. They run through it well. The question, and I know that because the questions that they ask are either in this general section, you said this, or when you said I didn't do, which means they're catching that kind of funnel approach.
Yeah, this is such a great example of something I tell instructors all the time, which is that peer assessment does not have to be the absence of the professor, right? It is still very much your involvement. I mean, to whatever degree you are able to do, but I think this is such a great way of illustrating that. So thanks, Brian. And this is your rubric, which similar to Francine's setup, but I know you wanted to talk about the critical thinking matrix.
Yeah. So I just wanted them to see beyond the stars there is that I take each of this particular one, I'm really focusing on them understanding critical thinking and their measures against that. And so I have for each of the critical thinking levels here, and then I've broken it down here. So basic knowledge, application, analysis, evaluating, and so forth, so that they can see that very specifically. And most important is that when they're evaluating their peers, they're using this same rubric. So when they're saying, man, this was really effective evaluation because they were putting elements together and reorganizing thoughts, that's I think a better stimulus for them to think that's what I need to do next time, or did I do that as well? So again, and Francine's has the same breakout here in her criteria, but this, I just wanted everyone to see this because you can control this, and you can control the evaluations, and I teach them how to do that. How do you go from level 2 to level 3? I do that in a short video. What's the significance of that relative to scoring, and again, my evaluation of them as they evaluate their peers. So it's a very helpful approach, and you can do your own rubrics. Critic has a database that you use, and then you can adjust them a little bit. Really a wealth of good rubrics there.
Thank you. Yes, we try. Oh, yes, this is what I was talking about. So I thought you had these evaluator notes.
Yeah, use these evaluator notes, and I'll tell you. Well, there's lots of good reasons too, but in an HR class, some of them are going into HR. Some of them are picking up HR content because they're management. They expect to be hiring managers. And so I really focus on their evaluation of others. You know, if they get out there and if they're supervising one employee, they're going to have to do an evaluation of them at some point. And they've got to learn to use a set of guidelines, a rubric, a standard in which they measure performance. And so I give them some, here I told them, go look at that rubric we just saw there and make sure you're looking at each of these levels. Look at performance to standard. Or observation of performance to standard, and kind of training them in evaluation. Aside from them evaluating in a content way, did you catch this? Did you catch that?
Yeah, and as you can see here, it says students only see the notes after the evaluation stage starts. So what many instructors are doing is similar to Brian, is kind of using these as almost like instructions for the evaluate stage. But originally, this feature was developed for things like math classes, science classes, where there's typically an answer key, and you don't want the students to see that until after they've submitted their work. So this is what that original purpose was. So just for those of you who might be attending from other fields, there is a way to have answer keys as well. And this is how you would do that. So here's a sample written evaluation from your course, Brian, and then I think we have the feedback on the next slide.
Pretty good. I didn't grab this one, but this is a great example of somebody who was paying attention and really looking at the rubric and pointing out things that are very specific that they can take to the next time. It's just it's great when they even said, have a great summer. How about that? That was a spring course.
Francine is probably laughing because it says I enjoyed it.
I know. Yeah, that was the one where we had a video, so they enjoyed watching the video there. Yeah, right. As well. So here's that feedback at the end here, and what I try to focus on here is, again, in this particular class is for them to practice good interaction with others. So you see the comment. You can say, "Oh, this is motivational." Or your responses were generic or very motivational, and then the critiquing part here. is I like the dichotomy between the two. It was helpful. I like that you like my work, but I don't know what to do next time, or I do know what to do next time. It's a very, very nice approach that's used, and I don't have to do anything here. They just finish that, close that loop here, and it's a very effective part of the 360 that Critic has added in their branding.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. Thank you for sharing that. That was super insightful. So I know we're getting to the end of the time here. We're actually 1 minute over time, but just some key takeaways before we go. I think as you've kind of seen today, critical thinking is teachable. It really requires intentional design. It requires you to be intentional about how you're going to go about it, whether or not you use our tools or do something else. Technology can only amplify but not replace those pedagogical goals. So we can help you achieve them, but it's really going to come down to your involvement still in getting your students to get to this point. And yeah, platforms like our products, Visible AI and Critic 360, can make that thinking visible, actionable, and interactive from peer to peer. So we'll move on to just our final discussion here. So this is actually the end of the presentation. If anyone does need to drop off, feel free. But this is typically where I would allow people to unmute if you have, or you can raise your hand if that's more comfortable, or you can use the chat. But would love to get a little bit of discussion going here, just in terms of what has been your experience with AI policies or peer assessment, and where do you see opportunities to surface student thinking in your course more than you are today? So we'll probably stay on for another maybe 5 minutes or so just to kind of hear what people have to say in terms of these questions. So if anyone would like to unmute, feel free, or like I said, raise your hand. I'll give it a couple seconds. See if we get anyone. I think I know we're at time, so. Or Francine or Brian, feel free to share a few more thoughts if you'd like as well. Not seeing anyone raising their hand.
I'll fill the dead air then. The AI policies, one of the things we were talking about before the session started was my university, Ohio University, is evaluating Visible AI, and one of their guidelines for AI that they're struggling with now. They're moving forward. They understand the significance of AI in across the university, all disciplines, but they're concerned that FERPA is a barrier. And I want to say that it can be, absolutely can be, because once, if you're asking them to use AI, whatever they're inputting or using it for is out there then, whether they know it or not, even though they stick it then in an assignment or in a learning management system, Canvas, Blackboard, etc. But what Visible AI, a significant advantage is that you can control Visible AI relative to the AI supervised data that it has. I could do the AI access that they have. I could have it only the textbook, only my notes, only my videos, only those aspects that I want them to be able to reach out to. Or I can let them sneak out to ChatGPT, 4 or 5, whatever, right? Or Gemini. So you can control that too. And I think that's going to, I think personally, for those that are going to have to connect with the IT groups, that's a key component of Visible AI that's truly an advantage, competitive advantage for them. But I mean for us as faculty to be able to control it so that we teach them how to use it, right, before we let them use it, by themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Brian. We do have a hand raised. So Masa, I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, hello, thanks for these great talks. I'm pretty new to, actually, I'm really new to this critic stuff, and probably I missed the first section of that. Did you say that how we can access these critic platforms, and is that free or not?
They are free for instructors. There is a cost associated for students. So if you're interested in learning more, there will be follow-up emails sent out, and including the slide deck and the recording. And the last slide is going to have my contact information, and I'll make sure that you get in touch with the right person here at Critic if you want to learn more.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions or thoughts before we go?
Hi, and so I have a question. This is Patty from UMBC.
Hi, Patty.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
So I just have a question in terms of like, so if we have already paid for a license, do we get the do we get both or do we just get one?
No, yeah, it is per product. So yeah, we can definitely talk about that. But yeah, Visible AI would be an additional, a separate kind of thing that we can bundle together at a reduced cost if you want to use both together. But yeah, we can definitely chat about that if you're interested in trying it out either this fall or spring.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're
That was-
welcome.
All right. Bye-bye. We'll
Bye.
talk soon. I will email you very soon as I start speaking to instructors. All right.
Thanks, Patty.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Anyone else? Last thoughts or questions? Questions for our speakers?
I guess I would piggyback off of what Brian said about, trying to teach the AI use responsibly, but there are a few impediments simply because much of our way of doing things and the way universities operate is, it's impediments that hopefully can be, overcome. One of the things that I, personally am dealing, I just created a chat bot and I'm trying to go through some of the things that Brian enumerated. So we'll see how that goes, because chat bots and things like that are here, not just coming, but they're here. So I think utilizing the two products really does help with responsible AI usage and flow to other areas as well.
Yeah, one of the things I try to keep in my mind is I have a 13-year-old and the things that they're exposed to at this young age already in terms of AI. Right now we're thinking about youth who are in university and how they're dealing with it as they're already in there. But what are we going to do 5 years from now when these students are going to be coming in from a completely different place, having used or been exposed to these tools for years and years and years already, right? So really trying to kind of shift that thinking, like this is not going anywhere and we have to learn how to, or help the students learn how to at least use it responsibly, ethically, effectively, and not lose those critical thinking skills in the process. So certainly something I think about often. All right, so I think we'll wrap it up here. Thanks to everyone who stayed on for the entirety. I know we went a little bit over time. We do have some free resources that will be available in the slide deck, which will be sent out along with the recording either later today or early tomorrow. And then here's that, these are the other two sessions we have coming up. So we have one tomorrow, which will be focused more on AI specifically and our Visible AI product a little bit more in depth than what we saw today. And our last session, feedback loops in the age of instant answers. That one is going to be focused more on peer assessment. So the two instructors that are coming to be guest speakers there have not used Visible AI. So it'll be more focused on the other thing. So if you're interested in seeing more about those two types of ways of helping critical thinking to evolve in your classrooms, definitely sign up for the other two sessions. And then finally, if you do want to learn more, you can reach out to me as a first step and I will connect you to the right person to help you get a demonstration or see more about what we have to offer with our two products. But thank you again for joining us today. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that Francine and Brian were able to be here as guest speakers and share their personal experiences with you all. And have a wonderful rest of your summer and a great fall semester ahead. Thank you again.